What's shaking, my friends? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Shay, and today is the start of a new vlog. It is now officially May, which means we are doing 1 week, 1 jar. This is a thing that I've been doing. This is like my third May doing this, in which I take 1 week of the month and I pick books out of one single one of my jars that have different categories in it. The one that I'm going to start with is new release jar. Now I know that I haven't spoken to y'all in quite some time. Please know that I'm doing well. I had some mental things going on in April. I had a reading slump happen. You know, you'll hear all about the things in the wrap up, but for now I'm happy to be back and I'm happy to be doing 1 week, 1 jar. Super excited. So the 1 jar that I'm going to start with is going to be my new releases jar. In this jar is every single book that I'm interested in reading that has come out between January and May. Now it's May 1st, so I'm not going to, of course, be able to read the books that are coming out in May. However, I already added them into the jar before I knew that I would be starting with new releases jar, so therefore if I pick a May book out of this jar, I will just pick another one. Super excited. I am starting with this jar because I have an Everend credit that I have to use first of the month. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started. I will say that I did go ahead and go through the jar and cull the books that I was no longer interested in reading because, you know, as the year goes on, as reviews start to roll in for these books, you may find things in reviews that you're like, oh, that's a no for me. I really don't want to read that book. So I don't want to get in another slump. So all of these books in this jar are books that I'm interested in reading. We will just pick a book to start the month of May with. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start. I'm nervous. Here we go. Okay, so this is Overgrowth, and I'm going to check real quick, but I think this one comes out in the month of May, although I am interested in reading it. Yes, it comes out on May the 6th, so we will pick again. Okay, I have this one. You Killed Me First. Okay, so this is actually the new John Mars release. I recognized the cover. I didn't recognize the title. I haven't read that many John Mars books. I've read just the one, I think, but I'm always interested in his books and always interested in his premises. So this one says 3 women, 3 smoldering secrets. Who will make it out alive? So I'm excited to start off the month with kind of a mystery thriller vibe. That's like a fast-paced story, hopefully, and hopefully it's going to turn out to be a good one for me. I will check in when I get some into the book. Okay, You Killed Me First by John Mars. Let's chat about it. So normally in mystery thrillers, I read these pretty fast. I'm engaged. I'm rushing through the book to try to figure out what's going on, what's happening. It's keeping me guessing. I started this book on the 1st of May. It is now the 3rd of May, and I am only 50% into the story. And that is because of a couple of different things. Number one, I've just been more interested in other activities than reading. And I don't know if that's because I'm not fully invested in what I'm reading or if it's because I'm just finding other methods of entertainment enjoyable at this time. I also know that last month I was in a fantasy reading slump, and so I chose to move on to a different genre. This is not in the fantasy genre yet. I'm still kind of not fully immersed into this. So this book came out in the beginning of March and it already has like 37,000 ratings on Goodreads. So John Mars is a very prolific, very popular author that plenty of people read. And I have only read, like I said, I think the only book I've read by him is The One, which is it's probably his most popular work, which I thought was just okay. I didn't love it, I think, as much as everybody else did, but I also think that it was because it was overhyped for me. However, I went into this one with very openness. I started listening to just the audiobook at first and realized right quick that that was not going to be the way for me to enjoy it. I was going to have to do like an immersion read, and so that's what I've been doing. I have been reading along with my eyeballs as I'm listening, and the reason for that is this is a full cast, I believe, narrated audiobook, and all the narrators sound to me the same, but that's not only the issue here. The issue is that these 3 women points of view that we are following almost seem like the same exact character, and that is where kind of my fault with the story lies. We have 3 generic women who are almost, could be the same person and interchanged out. So I was having a difficult time when I was just listening to the audiobook trying to figure out who was actually talking. And the chapters are super short, like 2 to 3 pages, and that's it. And then we're moving on to a different point of view. So that has not gripped me as much as I want to. Now, the books that have shorter chapters and mystery thrillers that end off like they keep plugging in like pieces of information or cliffhangers at you, like those ones I tend to continue to flip the page. This is not the case in this one. We're just getting the short chapters, but there's no kind of like cliffhanger or thing to make you keep reading. Basically, at 50% in, we have these 3 characters, these 3 very annoying women. They all are trying to be high society. Some think they're high society, but they all, of course, have secrets about their life and everything going on. And we just got a reveal at 50% that I didn't see coming. I will say I did not see it coming, but we're also getting another perspective of, I can't spoil that one, but if you've read the book, this other perspective that we're getting is what is making me super frustrated, very angry about what I think is going to happen in this book. And it's something that I don't like in my mystery thrillers. At the beginning of the book, we know that there is a woman that is getting murdered. Somebody is murdering her. And then we're going back in time leading up to that night of that murder. And that's kind of, we don't know who's been murdered. We don't know who did the murdering, but we are going back in time to try to see who this is. And it's just okay for me so far. Again, at the 50% mark, I should be flying through this book. Like most mystery thrillers, I fly through. But this one, not so much. So I'm interested, though, to continue on and to see if this book actually does offer some kind of newness or a twist at the end that I don't see coming. But we will see when I get there. I'll check in when I'm done with the book. Okay, so I have finished You Killed Me First. And this book was extremely unhinged. I'm just gonna say, like, this is probably one of the most unhinged kind of thriller books that I read. Like, as soon as one reveal would happen, you'd be like, okay, and then another reveal would happen and you're like, okay, this is the end of the book. And then you look down and you have like 20% of the book left and you're like, well, what's gonna happen? It was literally like whiplash. And so I ended up giving this book 3 stars, mostly because it was super unrealistic. And so when things are super unrealistic, I don't enjoy them as much as a thriller maybe that may be on the more realistic side. Also, there was not a single likable character in this book. They were all unlikable and they were meant to be that way, but I have to have some character that has some kind of redeeming quality to them, and there was just none in this book. So I gave it 3 stars. It was a wild ride, I will say that, but a 3-star read. And it's time to go pick another new release. I'm super excited. Don't know what I'm in the mood for, but again, if I pick a May release, I will have to put it back and pick another one. But let's see. Okay, this one. Okay, so this is What Happens in Amsterdam, and I'm quite sure that that's a May release. Let's see. Yes, that is a May release, so we're gonna pick again. Okay. I do really want to read that book though. It's by Rachel Lynn Solomon. This is Promise Me Sunshine, and I feel like this is another romance, and I don't know, I have a lot of books in here and not many of them are romances, so that's really interesting. This is the new one by Cara Baston. This came out on March the 4th, 2025, so this is a romance. Promise Me Sunshine. This has 22,000 reviews already on Goodreads. It came out, I believe, like almost the same day as You Killed Me First. And I'm excited to dive into this one. I have not read any Cara Baston. I know that everybody loved her last release, but it had like the pregnancy trope or something in it. I don't remember. I am interested in reading that one, but I'm also interested in reading this one. And again, the jar is being very nice to me because I was in a fantasy slump, and now I have had 2 books that are not fantasy, even though majority of the books that are in this here jar are fantasy. So that's interesting. When I get some into this book, I will pop back in and tell you some thoughts. Okay, so Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Baston. Please forgive me for the way I'm looking. I have been cleaning today. So I liked this book. I gave it 4 stars. There were a little bit of nitpicky things that I had. For some odd reason, I could not get connected to the male main character, and I have absolutely positively no idea why that is, because I think he was a good character. Also, during the middle of reading this, something happened to me personally, and that brought down my enjoyment because then I couldn't concentrate on the book necessarily, and that's not the book's fault. But I did overall really enjoy this one, and I want to read more of Cara Baston. This book is a study of grief. I love grief, but basically we are following our main character, Lenny, who has had a death in her life. Her best friend has died of cancer, and she is having a very difficult time getting over that loss in her life. And she meets Miles, because Miles is the brother of somebody that she has agreed to babysit for. And first, he's very grumpy. He is always just saying the wrong things, doing the wrong things, and just seems like a very grumpy person, but it's actually all because he is trying to look out for his niece in the best way that he knows how. And so he kind of is a very caring individual, and he cares about, he grows to care about Lenny and trying to help her get over her grief, and he helps her in this way, and then they wound up falling in love, of course. So I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. Looking forward to reading more of Cara Baston in the future, and that means we are here again to pick another new release. Okay. Ooh, let's see. Here we go. You've got to be kidding me right now. This is Say You'll Remember Me. I don't have that many romances in this jar. I don't have them. They're not here. I have maybe 5 in this entire jar. Something is telling me to read romances. Say You'll Remember Me. This is Abby Jimenez's new book, and I have read Abby Jimenez, every single one of her books, and generally liked every single one of her books. I have 5-starred some of her books. Her last release that everybody was in love with, I gave 4 stars. So I didn't 5-star that one. But we'll see how I feel about Say You'll Remember Me. I am flabbergasted at the fact that I keep getting romance books as my dog comes in here licking. But anyway, okay, let's get into it. Let's read it, and I will come back with my thoughts. Okay, so my house is a mess. I apologize. But I went back and counted how many romance books I actually had in the new releases jar, and it was like 3. So I picked 2 of them, and I've read both of them in this video. That's so crazy. So I did read and finish Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. And unpopular opinion time, this is not one of my favorite Abby Jimenez books. And part of the reason is this is not my favorite thing to read in romance. So in romance, I like a slow build. I like a slow burn, and this one definitely is not that. So we are following our 2 main characters, our female main character, who unfortunately is going through a difficult time. She meets the male main character in Minnesota. I believe they live in Minnesota, and she meets him. He's a vet, as she's taking this kitten into the vet. He's kind of grumpy at first, and they don't hit it off, and then she comes back later for a checkup for this little kitten, and he asks her out on a date, and they go on a date, and they click immediately. And so this happens within the first few chapters, and so that's where halt, put on the brakes. You know, I normally like a slow build, some angst, some tension. That's what I like in my romances. But the kicker is that they're in Minnesota, and he doesn't know that she is moving to California, which is way across country, to take care of her mother who has dementia. Now, there are trigger warnings for dementia in the story, and you know, this really is a true telling, I will say, of caregiver fatigue, dementia. I deal with a lot of dementia patients in my everyday job. I've dealt with dementia patients for years and years and years, and it's very realistic as far as the dementia representation and the caregiver fatigue. It's just a story about grief of our main character grieving the mother that she knew, because her mother's really young. She's 51. And you know, an end-stage dementia patient at 51 is very difficult to deal with, especially when you're trying to build a life and you're trying to build a family and you're trying to get married, have children, build a life for yourself, all of the things. And all of a sudden you have to put that on hold to take care of your loved one. And, you know, navigating those family dynamics, I think that was really done well. And we're navigating this long distance relationship between this vet who lives in Minnesota and she who lives in California. And again, I thought it was a fine romance. I thought it was cute. I thought the representation for the dementia and the grief, fantastic, wonderful. It's just not my type of love story, because they basically fall in love within the first few chapters. And it's just their journey of how they're going to wind up being in the same place. And at the same point in their lives. And I do think there's a lot to say about books that explore different topics such as that. It's just not my favorite romance to read. I like some angst, I like some tension, I like some build in my relationships, but I still thought it was cute. I just gave it 4 stars, not 5. So it is time. I think I have time to read one more book out of the new releases jar. So let's hope I don't pick the third romance. Okay, let's see. Let's get something else. Here we go. Here is the final book, most likely for this vlog. Okay, this is Bat Eater and Other Names. This one, I can't remember who this author is, but she wrote another book that I did not read, and but I'm interested in reading this one. And I can see the cover in my head, but I can't at this time articulate what this particular book is about, but I am excited to read this. I was looking the other day and I know for a fact it's on Hoopla because I just saw it the other day on there. So that's probably how I will consume this one, and I will check in hopefully at the 50% mark. I know I have been very terrible about checking in, especially with these romance reads, because they just go by so fast, and when they go by so fast, it's hard to remember to check in. But I will check in at the 50% mark in this one, and I will see y'all then. Okay, so I am probably about 60% into Bat Eater, and that's just what I'm going to call it because that's easier than saying the full name. So this is an interesting book, and this book mostly has a lot of very positive reviews. So we have our main character who unfortunately watches her sister die. She gets run over and decapitated by the subway train, and so she is privy to that, and somebody actually does murder her because they push her, and the only thing that she sees is that he's a white man. She sees his hands, and then she becomes obsessed with looking at people's hands. This is all taking place in the COVID era, so you have COVID, and it's a discussion on grief and a discussion on racism, because she is called Bat Eater and blamed for COVID. She's Chinese. So that is, you know, a real social talking point in the book. And of course, she starts to see, as this is a horror story, she starts to see her sister's ghost. And she's trying to figure out why, and she is a crime scene cleaner as well, so she is tasked with cleaning up pretty gruesome crime scenes. But overall, the story, I feel, is a discussion on grief and racism and a lot of different social topics. I don't know how I personally feel about it. I just find it okay. I don't find it like some monumental thing. But it's just fine. And maybe I went in with the wrong expectations in this book. I don't know. A lot of social commentary books, and I'm not saying I don't like social commentary books. I'm just saying a lot of them sometimes don't hit with me as much as I want them to hit. And so far, this one is so. I'm going to keep reading, and I will update you when I get done and give you my final thoughts. Okay. I have now finished Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zhang, and I overall did not really jive with this one. I ended up giving it 2 stars, and I don't really know if I've said this 1,000 times before that I don't think horror is my genre, and I should probably just quit altogether reading it. But I keep getting drawn in by these beautiful covers and synopses, and I'm like, oh, that would be very great to read. My problem with this one was, I thought that the characters read a little bit juvenile, and there were some gory parts to the story. I also feel like I also felt like this story made me have to suspend my belief too much. And I'm not talking about the horror elements, because of course the horror elements, you're gonna have to suspend your belief. I'm talking about the other elements of the story. The whole serial killer storyline was unbelievable to me. The fact that the world was ignoring all of these murders, the fact that the police never got involved when people started to be killed. I don't know, it just felt very unrealistic to me, and it also felt like the emotions that our main character should have when all these horrible things are happening were not there. She was just like, okay, another person killed, okay, I'll go do this now. I don't understand. So overall, it just wasn't a book for me. Again, the social commentary part was good, I think. I just don't like I read to escape. And so when I'm reading about conflicts in the real world and social commentary pieces, like, it kind of drags me out of the story. It makes me depressed because I'm over here reading about real world problems when I'm trying to read to escape. So I didn't know that that was going to be an aspect of the story, and I probably wouldn't have read it if I would have known. But here we are, and I wound up giving it 2 stars. And that's fine, that's fine. But I have read 4 books for this vlog. I think there's been 4 books. Where has the time gone? And I am ending this here, and I will catch you guys in the next one next week.